Hello, lovelies. I'm back. Hello, family, and welcome to my channel. Today, I want to do another video about the Southeast Woodland tribes, the American Aborigines. I found an interesting article. I like to go to different encyclopedias to get a feedback of what it says about the indigenous people in the Americas, and see what it says and get a feel for it, because a lot of people use the encyclopedia, especially students, our children, kids in high school, middle school and high school tend to use encyclopedias as references, and so I like to go and read from those to see what exactly it's saying about our indigenous tribes and roots. And a lot of times I've done a video of past of showing why it is that African Americans, aka American Aborigines, don't know that they are indigenous here in the Americas, is because of how things are written in the book, because a lot of our history is hidden and worded a certain way, and the pictures with the gray washing of the pictures and literatures in the books, and makes in all the lies that's been taught in school make us believe that we're not from here, and they try to place us as many times as possible in Africa, when in actuality we are indigenous here in the Americas. Our ancestors, is passed down through family tradition, and a lot of us heard from our grandparents or great-grandparents that we originate here and that we have Indian in us, and that was their way of telling us that we are the American Aborigines, the Paleo Indians that they oftentimes show and discuss in anthropology books, in anthropology science scholarly journal articles that we see that's been published for hundreds of years. I'd say since the 1800s, they've been publishing these findings from anthropology in these science journals. So, and yeah, but let's go ahead and get started, you guys. I can, I'm a chatterbox. I can go on and on. And on some of these encyclopedias, information come from colleges and universities sometimes. But I went to Georgia Encyclopedia and got some information. Also, Alabama Encyclopedia to get some information and get a feel. But this particular article is from encyclopedia.com. It was published in 2005 and written by Thomas Gale. The title of this is called The Encyclopedia of Religion. Is North American Indians of the Southeast Woodlands. Okay, let's drill down and see what it says. It says here, North American Indians of the Southeast Woodlands. Culturally and linguistically diverse Native Americans, which is actually American Aborigines too. That's another reason why we get confused. They don't include the American Aborigines, but we were here too. And it says here, communities of various sizes recognized now areas now known as the southeastern region of the United States as their ancestral homeland at the beginning of 21st century. Several are federally recognized groups, while other communities continue to press for state and federal recognition. While those have governmental recognition are officially identified as American Indian tribes or bands. Members of these groups self-identify in a number of ways, but most often by means of group names, which are either indigenous or commonly accepted English terms. So, like I said, a lot of the federally recognized tribes are the $5 Indians and the Mongoloid Indians, and probably the half-breeds that I talk about, which are the Indo-Europeans, Indo-European or the Euro-Indians, who are mixed with European and the Mongoloids pretty much. and that creates that group. But you don't see the American Aborigines, because the original Indians that were here that originate from Australia and Africa were taken off the list. They were they were more than likely reclassified as blacks, which are the African Americans. And it says here, they said mention a diverse group, but that's what their way of saying diverse group, which is us, without including us. The twisting of truth, with lies. But let's scroll down. Depending on personal preferences, individuals also may employ certain terms as First Nations, First People, Indigenous Nations, Native Americans, or Indians. Certain of these First People of the Southeast count as many as 10,000 members, while many more individuals living in regions claim some measure of Native American heritage. And like I said, a lot of this has been messed with and tampered with the Dawes Commission back in the 1800s. And I did a video about the different books I read, and it's included in one of the books that I shared with you all earlier. So it's included in a lot of them about what actually took place in switching out of the Indians. But this is just pretty much telling you how people classify themselves. And I was back up here at this top. They were saying something about federally recognized. There's a tribe, I believe, that's further north. I think I want to say the Purpoz. I'm not sure. Don't take my word for it, but it's a tribe that decided not to be federally recognized. They want to become independence from the United States altogether because of the several, the United States have broken so many of the agreements that was done with the Indians that they no longer trust the United States government, because they have changed and switched things around and taken so much from the indigenous people that they no longer want to be federally recognized. And there's there's one particular tribe I know of that is definitely avoiding that, because once you become federally recognized, a lot of times the government can come in and change things. And that's why I think happened with a lot of the tribes. The government came in, they put gray Caucasians in leadership roles, and they put in as many gray people as possible, gray Europeans, and also half-breeds in there, to the point where you get what you get now. None of the original people, indigenous people, but only half-breeds and gray Caucasians in there, and running it and getting all the benefits and the land rights and the financial benefits, and being able to go to school and college for free and not having to pay taxes, when the real Indians are being taxed heavily and have a lot of their lands taken away. And right now, a lot of the indigenous people, the American Aborigines, aka African Americans, are having their land still taken to this very day through gentrification. I did a video about that, about how gentrification is another form of how they're stealing land from the indigenous people to this very day. But anyway, there's y'all might want to check out that particular video, because I talk about that as well. It says here, the researchers suggest that there are some elements of religious systems that are and have been common to most Southeastern groups. Certain ritual activities, cultural narratives, myths, and beliefs that reflect recurring themes are discernible, and oral transmission of knowledge continue in many communities. And it still does and these things that they talk about is also applied to American Aborigines. A lot of customs and things that were passed down from generation to generation, still being passed down. A lot of the customs passed down through churches. I heard that a lot of the things about our heritage is in churches, and also in the Bibles that's passed down from our relatives, oral traditions, the stories, like when you hear your grandparents saying that we got Indian in us, that we come from a tribe, here in the Americas, and they telling you which tribe you come from. That's an oral tradition, and we should acknowledge and accept that and believe in what our ancestors are telling us. And if your ancestors are telling you this, they don't really have no reason to lie about where they come from. The we're group that has a reason to lie are the ones that's flooding the school system with these fake narratives, these false narratives, and brainwashing the history. That's the ones that we should be concerned about. But let's continue here. Nowhere in this article they mention the Aborigines, which is interesting. Wow. It says here, however, when anthropologist John R. Swanton observed in the 1940s, it's still the case today. While the background of religious beliefs of these tribes and their medical practices are similar, the religious attune seems to vary considerably from one tribe to another, and the ceremonial patterns are often markedly distinct. So, I talked about this as well, about the tribes, healings, medicinal practices, and everything, and religion, spiritual, which is pretty much spiritual beliefs of the indigenous people. I did a video, y'all might want to check it out, talk about the healing and spiritual practices of the indigenous American Aborigines, and this article pretty much stems back to it. A lot of the things that our indigenous people, ancestors did were done through spiritual practices, like hoodoo, for instance. I think that is a particular spiritual practice that includes healing and spirituality at the same time, and also giving homage and respect to the ancestors and connecting back to the ancestors in the universe and here on the earth is an example of a traditional cultural and traditional spiritual heritage that's oftentimes missed because it's been replaced with Christianity and Europeanized and Westernized type religion and cultures. And that's something I believe that we should tap into. And I touch on that on that article, not article, but video. And y'all might want to check that one out. And also, I'm going to do some research on hoodoo because that's one of the indigenous practices that includes both spirituality and medicine that our people done, but it's oftentimes overshadowed with negativity and saying there's witchcraft and this negative everything that I noticed that is considered indigenous by the melanated race of people is considered witchcraft and evil, and then it's glorifying the Caucasian type religion, which is Christianity, that they made up. It's glorified and put into the light. But in actuality, we do need to tap into our customs because a lot of stuff has been taken and hidden. That was something that we should come back to and study and see for ourselves. Because a lot of stuff that is told in reverse, things that you think are good are not good, and things that you think are bad are not as bad as you think. And a lot of times they make it seem as bad because it comes from our ancestors, but it's sort of hard to get identity and understanding who you are as a person if you don't go back and understand what your ancestors, the knowledge, the wisdoms from your ancestors that is actually a part of us. And that's the part that's actually missing. But either way, let's continue. This is a lengthy article. I'm not sure if I'm going to read the whole thing. Well, here it is right here. And it says here, Southeast Woodlands, the first people. It's difficult to speak about groups and precise land area discussing first people of region, past, and present, and benchmark surveys do not always agree. Yeah, don't agree because of racism. That's the only reason. And, science already proven that the indigenous people are the the Aborigines, the American Aborigines. But they refuse to accept that because they want to keep great supremacy alive. It says, generally speaking, scholars have identified the Southeast as a sector of North America bounded by the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. At the east and south by the longitude 95 west, and by the latitude between 35 degrees and 40 degrees north. Historically, as many as 170 tribes are thought to have made the Southeast their home. With the following language families represented: Algonquin, Candoan, Cadowan, Iroquois. I never heard of that tribe right there. I'm going to have to research them. Cadowan, Iroquoian, Magoskan, that one is Creek. That's another way of saying Creek. Siouan, Tunisian, and Yukonin. And see, that's what we should be studying and learning more about these tribes and understanding, because a lot of these tribes are us. And we don't realize that. We really don't. But let's scroll down. A lot of tribes. Was there something else I was missing? And they mentioned the first people. They mention the first people all the time. Difficult to speak about a group. See, they don't want to speak about the group because they know who they are. Now, I'm going to bring out over here the reason why I want to speak about the first group. Now, let's scroll down here. Found this article on this page here. This is why they don't want to talk about the first people, is because this is what they keep on seeing. That's why. People of color. It says here, reconstructed face of teenage girl who lived in Mexico 12,000 years ago, nicknamed Naya, first published in January 2015, issue of National Geographic magazine. This is what they find. This is an American Aborigine right here. Okay? Scattered throughout the Americas. These are the first people of color, melanated. They look just like us. Then you scroll down here. Reconstruct face. Trying to move myself out the way. Let me scroll up. I'm getting myself. Reconstruct face of a young woman who lived more than 11,500 years ago in a rock shelter in southeastern Brazil. She was nicknamed Lucia, originally published by the Brazilian magazine Vega, August 1999. See, this is what they're finding. And that's why they come over here. And then when you go back over here, I'm going to bring you back over to this article. Difficult to speak about the groups. It's not difficult. There's nothing difficult about it. It's just they don't want the truth to come out. The truth is that we were already over here. They want to keep the slave ship narrative that we were brought over here from Africa, when everybody knows that the Atlantic is rough seas and they didn't have the technology back then to bring over millions of people like they did. Okay? It just doesn't make any sense. It's already been debunked. Okay? And we already know that we were already over here. It just makes more sense to bring people, to capture the people that is already over here than to bring people over rough seas with poor technology. They didn't have motors and engines back then. They didn't have huge, massive ships to bring over that massive amount of people. It's impossible. And so it's been debunked. And then researchers added support and evidence on slavewars.gov that they didn't bring over that many people. Then you read the readings of different from different historical books, such as the Columbus, his journals and all that, and other Benjamin Franklin, him saying they don't want to bring over that many people because there's a lot of people over here of color already. I go, why would he say that? He said that they don't want to increase the population of indigenous people here. So if it's like a lot of indigenous people here are people of color that look like us, why would you bring people from Africa to increase the numbers? See, a lot of this don't make no sense. It's been debunked. It doesn't, we see through the BS. It's nothing but lies to keep this indoctrination going on and try to keep us blindsided to the fact that we have rights to this land. But anyway, it says here, today, depending on criteria, estimates of communities in this large area range from the mid-20s to 50. The process, and then here it is, they start talking about colonization right here. And see, this is what they want to do. It says the process of colonization had a manifold effects on the first people of this region. Yes, you was killing them and you were catching them and putting them into slavery, which is actually nothing but prisoners of war. And the same thing you're doing with modern day slavery right now, which is imprisoning our American Aborigines in mass numbers and throwing them in there because you still want to get free, cheap labor and continue to freeload off the indigenous people that are already over here, which is the African Americans, aka American Aborigines. And it says in certain cases, distinct indigenous linguists and cultural social units join together as nations to meet the challenges posed by European colonists. Other political and ceremonial autonomous groups linked by such factors as languages and geography in a like manner. Most groups were organized by means of matrilineal, that's the female side, clans, which provides a ready-made organizational structure such as American nations as the Cherokee, Creek, and Chickasaw, Seminole, and Choctaw. I find it interesting that they say matrilineal, because if it's matrilineal, that tells you right there American Aboriginal, because patrilineal is usually used for Caucasians, very Caucasians, and also for the Mongoloids, okay? Because everything is dealing with males, patriarchal, that's just something I wanted to point out. Everything is male oriented. So that tells you right there that it's more than likely in another ethnic group. And so that tells you right there, it's definitely not Caucasians. And definitely not Mongoloids, because they are male oriented as well, especially if you look at Asia and China and all that, everything is male oriented. But anyway, it says, for example, is the Cherokee and the Tai Langi nations were formed from many villages. Villages of people refer to them as Ani Yuya. I'm sorry, I'm not sure. I think it's Yuya. I'm pronouncing it right. The principal people and spoke 3 dialects of what is now called the Cherokee language. The term Cherokee is of a certain uncertain origin, and all 3 terms are still used today through Cherokee and its Cherokee translations, Telaj or Antisalangi, predominant. And see, these are things that we should be learning, you guys. Our children, everybody should be learning these languages. This is something that we should be learning in ourselves, because this is part of our indigenous heritage, and we should be speaking in these frequencies. Like I said, I did another video about frequencies and language and words. You're speaking things into the universe. You should be using your native tongue for this to increase and improve positive flow of energy towards yourself. Everything is being Europeanized, and we're speaking in the Caucasians language. So of course, everything's going to be slanted towards them. And that's why we need to be learning more about who we are and what we're about and our customs. And let's draw down here. It says a different model is presented by the town of Tawa, of distinct people who, in order to repel outside threats, formed what became known as Creek Confederacy. See? Confederacy. And they had to do that because what was happening is they were kidnapping the children, the women and children, and killing off the men. And you can see that as evidence that the children were being kidnapped and killed and thrown into slavery. They did away with indentured servitude and tried to put them instead into perpetual servitude, which is slavery. And you can see that in the evidence, in the artwork, through the satire that they use, the emblems of America. And I showed you all that with them showing the kids that have been kidnapped. And then in the background, you see the Indians trying to get their kids back in the background with the arrows and the feather headdress that's pointing upward. Those are the American Aborigines. That's us. Those are us. Then you scroll down here. It says these include a community speaking the Muscogee linguistic family languages. Muskogee, Alabama, and Kosati, Apache, Hichiti, and Mikasaki is, in addition, at some point in time, members of the Yuchi, Shanti, Natchez, Goli, Yamasi, Sabo, and Tawasco tribe. Lewis and Jordan, 2002. The term Muskoki, Muskogee, and Creek can refer to the people, the language of, or both. See, and like I said, we should be learning all of this, you guys. And the reason why we haven't been doing that is because we've been brainwashed to believe that we're nothing but slaves. That's what they want to continue, but all the truth is coming out. We are more than that. So we're more. And we're starting to, it's the truth come out through these museums, anthropology reports, and scientific journals. All this supportive evidence is showing who we are, and we have access to it thanks to, for the internet, and it's coming out like floodwaters. And then now that it's widely available and we can see for ourselves, the truth is actually coming to light. It says some of these imaginations were decimated by warfare and disease, and were many autonomous communities before them. Others were torn under by the U.S. government of forced removal during the 1830s. See, they were forcing them out off their land. And then consequently, until that time, the contemporary South was populated by groups that for most part now have larger populations in Oklahoma. Because indigenous people are now have communities in the Southeast, as well as Oklahoma once belonged to the same cultural units, they have shared common elements of religious systems, although time and places have created distances. In Oklahoma, close proximity to other groups from the Southeast created greater amalgamations of beliefs and ritual. So, when you see all that now with us and with the customs of Christianity, but which I find that a lot of younger people are shying away from it because they realizing that that was a religion that was imposed to us through slavery when we were captured during prisoners of war, during the Indian Wars that they hide and try to brush under, because there's a lot of Indians wars that took place because our people were trying to fight back and get their land back. And this is something they knew, that we were fierce warriors, and they don't want that to come back because they knew that we fought them off for over 250 years, well, for hundreds of years. And they don't want us to realize who we are, because once we do, there's no turning back. And they know this. And seeing this removal, and all they did, they put the Indians in these, I forgot what you call it, reservations. But the reservations pretty much, especially for the copper-colored races, the American Aborigines, have been replaced with ghettos. So it's pretty much the same. Nothing different. Nothing different. And they still in lands by trying to do gentrification. Gentrification is nothing. It's the same thing as what they're doing now. Gentrification is the same thing as when they were the amalgamation, the moving and pushing of the Indians off their land. It's the same thing. Gentrification is the same thing. There's nothing changed. That constant stealing and pillaging to this very day. It's just a different form of it. A different form. But it's the same. Just one and the same. They try to dampen the blow, it's still the same. But it says during the 20th century, particularly the second half of the century, many Eastern and Western communities increased efforts to strengthen their ties. And it says, despite adversity, contingents of certain tribes were able to maintain a presence on some portions of their ancestral lands, and over time solidified this presence. Currently, many indigenous religious systems are undergoing revivals, a part of the wider cultural revitalization. The Eastern Bands of the Cherokee, North Carolina, the Poach Bands of the Creeks, Alabama, the Seminole tribe, and the Muskogee tribe, Muskogee tribe, both in Florida, and the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians, and Alabama Coushatta tribe of Texas, as well as Coushatta, the Chitimacha, and the Tunica, the Biloxi tribes of Louisiana, are testaments to the resolve of indigenous southeastern nations to retain their religious, social, and political identities while undergoing cultural change. Yeah, they were trying to blend them into mainstream society. Assimilation. And it says the lengthy legal and legislation actions often were required to guarantee and ensure the insight associated with such groups' identity and circumstances, and could and did change. See, and that's why I like hearing about Chief Warhorse, the Choctaw Indians, because she said that they still keep a lot of their old traditions and tribes. And then you hear about the Louisiana tribe. They try to say, oh, those were slaves. They're not. They're the original Negro Indians that were there in Louisiana. And they had their parades and stuff in Louisiana, and they had the costumes, and they still keep the traditions of the indigenous roots by having their parades and different ceremonies and different types of events that they have to celebrate their indigenous heritage. And something that we should do. And that's something that I'm planning on doing. I'm going to keep you guys posted. Because I think we need to have more of those. As indigenous people, we need to come together and start having more of these so we can connect and learn more and grow. And I'm thinking about putting some stuff together myself, an organization, and, I'm going to keep you guys posted. I'm working on some projects too, and some of the things that I would like to do and see, because I believe that that's the missing components. Spiritual and cultural identity is what we need. In order to do that, we need to come together in unison and express and show and learn and grow from each other, so we can make a change. We really do. And see, I like seeing these. And see, we need to learn more about all these tribes and come together. And we go back and talk and recall what our grandparents and great parents have been telling us the whole time. We can piecemeal the missing pieces and bring it together and make things right. And it says lengthy legal or legislative actions were required to guarantee and ensure the rights associated with such groups' identity and circumstances could be changed. That could and did change. And see, that's what I'm talking about, the Great Caucasians laws that they passed. Everything is for them, by them, for them, and by them overall to benefit them. Okay, for Great Caucasians. Okay, and so these laws were not intended for us. Okay, and that's why it's important that we have our own. Okay, so that justice can be served for ourselves by ourselves, because to incorporate for ourselves and benefit ourselves, because we're never going to have the just equal rights and equality that is required from the Great Caucasians, because they don't see it. They just refuse to see it in that way. And part of it is they're programmed to be that way. That's the whole purpose of them being implanted here by an alien race. Okay? Genetically engineered to do that. What they're programmed to do. But anyway, let's continue. I'll do a video on that, my speculations later, but let's continue. It says, to give one example, the Catawba people of South Carolina band together to survive for survival was near several North and South Carolina people in the first half of the 18th century. The Catawba Indian tribe was terminated, oh my gosh, as federally recognized tribe in 1962, recognized by the federal government again in 1993, and received monetary settlement to resolve land dispute that began in the 1840s. If that's the same people. That's if they probably did not want to accept them as indigenous until they allowed great Caucasians grazing there, and the half-breeds, the European Indians, the Indo-Europeans, Indians in there, the half-breeds. I bet you if you look them up, you're gonna see nothing but great Caucasians in there and half-breeds, and maybe a sprinkle of Mongoloids if there's any of those in there as well. You're not going to see American Aborigines in there because they took them off. And enslaved them. Okay? That's why they dismantled the tribes. They broke them up, and they pushed all the full-blooded Indians out. And it says here, other communities have worked for full recognition of collective identities as well. At the first 21st century North Carolina groups, such as the Lumbee, entitled approximately 50,000 members. Hawale, Sapani, Wakama, and Kahari, as well as the Pumi and the Matapuni of Virginia, are recognized by their respective states, even as they continue to seek federal recognition. The fact that they are not always supported in the efforts by federal recognized Native American communities to speak to the complexity of the identity issues in the United States. The ongoing efforts of such groups are highlighting complex and often contradictory system of classification by federal and state agencies determined by Native American identity. How can you really? Okay. Native American identity. Wow. There's no complexity to it. All they did was back when they started like I said, the labeling system, they just put majority of the Indians labeled them as Negroes and Black, and put a few of the Mongoloids in the Indian spot, and then put a lot of the great Caucasians in there as well. That's why you got such pale looking Indians. They're not even the real ones. They just did that so they can keep on getting money for themselves. That's the whole point. They don't want to see their original people get any parts of their land back. They don't want to see them prosper. Because believe it or not, when we were segregated and had against Black Wall Street, and channeling our money together, we was more prosperous then. And they couldn't have that. That's why they tried to come in. They came in and burned and destroyed, like they always do. And so when these group of people just don't want to see these statements, but they don't know that inevitably their hatred and all the things that they're doing wrong, the injustice is going to backfire on them. It's going to backfire. But anyway, let's continue. This goes on to talk about the archaeological. It says overview of archaeological and historic data, contact, colonization, and cultural negotiation. And it was just so sad that, the Native Americans, you see what's going on with the Native Americans, the Mongoloids. We see that it doesn't work. Being federally recognized is no way for a government to have free access, to have free range on what you do within your own tribe. So this to me is not a really benefit. It's best to just have it on your own and build your own nations. Independence is best. It's not good. Not good. But let me see how long this article is. I know I'm getting a little long-winded, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but this part here seems quite interesting about the anthropology and what took place. Yeah, this is a very lengthy article. I might have to break this up into some parts, but let me read the first part of this. because this is interesting about the anthropology. I probably read the introduction and then read the bottom half. How about that? But anyway, it says here, overview of archaeological and historic data, contact colonization, and cultural negotiation. Standard anthropological timetables, often constructed with strong teleological components, consuming Western civilization as a goal, have traced the history of religious tradition in the Southeast by means of development of society patterns, with religious system reflecting change of social spheres of society progress towards civilization in terms of complexity and technology. Okay, so they just I guess that is a quick overview, and they're talking about complexity and things have changed, and it has changed. And it says here, typically the 5 periods of human occupation are delineated in the regions of Paleo Indians, which is us, 9,000 to 7,000 BC. Okay, and we never left here. We always been here. Then they got the Archaic, then the Woodlands, the Mississippian, and the historic. Generally, and then it says, generally speaking, scholars have linked the religious behaviors of communities and religions subsistence activities in each period. Okay, because right here, this tells you how far back our ancestry go. Right here, give and takes. No, I'm not sure if it's the exact, but here, this is a rough estimate. And so we never left here. We've been here the whole time, you guys. Never left. They try to make it look like it by not being inclusive, but the Paleo Indians have never left. We've always been here. The American ancient great race of people. And also, I did the DNA article from the Cell, I think it's called Cell Journal or something like that. It's a journal on DNA research, genetic research. And it showed too that we're very ancient and we go further back. And they studied the Y chromosome instead of usually they study the mitochondrial DNA, which comes from the mother. Instead, they go back and study the father's DNA, which is the Y chromosome. And it goes even further back, and that's when they realized that the African Americans, the American Aborigines, DNA goes even further back and it traces further back into the Americas even further than they thought. And it shows that we're ancient group of people. And it's like the data, the science, the research, everything is pointing to the fact that we were already over here and been here. Always been here. And since we always been here, we never left. That the religion and all that, we always had that. Some of the stuff that we believed in and the ancients believed in, we had to keep it hidden because the Greys kept on coming in during colonization, which is only a few hundred years ago, to destroy our identity and who we are and our customs. And lots of times they try to steal it and hijack it for themselves because they want to place themselves as being here when they don't have there's no history of them being here. Okay. They're not the original melanated people here on this planet. And then I'm going to scroll down, but these are the breakdown of the time periods, you guys. But we are the Paleo Indians. That's who we are. And like I said, I showed you back over here. These are the Paleo Indians, and these are us. You see? And we didn't just stay in Central and South America. We moved all over and throughout the Americas. And that's the thing that they try to hide. That's what they try to hide. And these are some more other remains. And it says skulls found in Warm Springs, Florida. These are war skulls. It's like we're all over. We try to hide it. Well, let's go back. Thought to be, however. And then it says here, let me read this part. The Gettysburg Stone, originally found while tilling the Garden of Historic Banner Farm in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, 1949, it was thought to be a Civil War soldier. However, analysis determined that the skull of a Native American man, black by nose bridge type. 22 to 25 years old, he likely lived 1,000 to 269 through 1,099. 1269 through 1299 in the American Southwest. So yeah, this is more evidence right here. Indigenous American. They just finding us all over. Especially right in here. This is us right here in particular. But let's go back. We're gonna skip through because it's taking too long. I'm gonna put a link to this article and y'all can read through it and see it for yourself. But this video gonna be extremely long if I try to read this whole thing. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I'm sorry, you guys, but let's go on down, and we're gonna stroll down to the bottom of the introduction, the conclusion of this particular session. It says here the cultural impacts of Christianity upon Southeast communities have been complicated and multiple. Exactly. See, this is what they're talking about. When they did colonization, that's when they started trying to it was forcing the indigenous people to accept their religious practices and everything, strip them of their indigenous roots. They tried to downplay and degrade the indigenous people's religion and spirituality, and trying to then force them to, literally force them, into Christianity. And it's something that the indigenous people wasn't really interested in, but they made them do it because they were conquered, okay, and they enslaved them. They didn't really have much of a choice. And then it says here the focus on acculturation, I meant to say, sorry, acculturation created conflicts. And in the 18th, 19th, and early to mid 20th century, the results of sectors of many communities was a emphasis on traditional beliefs and practice in favor of Christianity. And see, that's how they try to erase your history and heritage and your identity. And that's what they pretty much did. And they're still trying to do to this very day. It says, however, there were individuals and constituents throughout the Southeast who steadily maintained indigenous religious systems, though they did often, it says religious systems, though they often did so away from the gaze of observers, scholarly and otherwise. See, that's what I'm saying. That's why the American Aborigines kept some of the customs. They just had to hide them. A lot of stuff has been hidden through the church records probably. And then some of it, like I said, like hoodoo. I always go back to hoodoo because that's one of the, I say, some of the spiritual relics of the indigenous people that is hidden. And a lot of times the people who, American Aborigines, who still practices from their ancestors and it was passed down from generation to generation, they do not like to share it with outsiders. They're very skeptical and don't like to share it with outsiders. I'd say majority of them don't because of the brainwashing and the stealing, the hijacking of our ancient intellect and knowledge that's been passed on, that's been brainwashed and stolen. And it says, on the other hand, in some cases, and with the Choctaw and Cherokee, Christian churches actually work to preserve the cultural and group identity by incorporating local languages into services or by being a focal point of communities. And that's exactly what happened in a lot of churches. Some churches still practice it. Some churches do. But I'm going to stop here, you guys, because this is a very lengthy article. It talks about the contemporary landscapes. They talk about supernatural and other human beings. It talks about a lot of stuff. And let's see what else it talks about. It talks about narrative traditions and cosmology. I might do another part two. I'm not sure. Later on, I might come back and do a part two. Then it talks about creation of the world, appearances of humans, and it goes on and on. It's a lot of information. I have to say, this is a really good article. I really do. I think it's a really good article. It doesn't include the American Aborigines like it should, because we were here. And the way it does by saying Paleo Indians, that's their way of saying that we were here. But that's why I say, you all, if you want to do more research and dig in more history, it's good to look on the Paleo Indian, because Paleo Indians is us. We know that it's us now through the anthropology research that we see, and it's been published on National Geographic and the BBC. You know that it's us. So you start when you dig for research, you look for Paleo Indian. Look for Paleo Indian. That's how you get more information about who you are and your ancestors, if you want to go further back. But please like this video and thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. And till next time, family, peace. Oh, and also I want to let you know, don't forget about my necklaces. It's coming soon. I'm working on it. I'm putting together the e-store, Purpose Healing Art Store. That's coming soon. And till next time, family, peace and be blessed. Peace and love. Bye-bye.